Hello and good evening, friends, and welcome to the Week 6 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday. I am your host, Anthony Florio. I am joined at the moment by Michael Bullock. We are awaiting the presence of good old MF Michael Fletcher. He will be here in a little bit. He's running a little bit late, and he asked us to start the show, so that's what we're going to do. And when MF comes in, we will catch him up on what he missed. But for right now, Bullock and I will take you through what we have for right now, and then catch MF up when he comes in. So before we start, of course, we also want to take this moment to apologize to you fans out there for not being able to do the college football show last night. Commitments beyond our control, and that's the reasoning for that. MF had a commitment beyond his control. Bullock had a commitment beyond his control, and that's why we had to cancel the Week 7 edition of College Football Thursday for this week. But hopefully we'll be back up and running with that next week. But for right now, let's get into NFL Friday. And of course, Week 6 started last night. Thursday Night Football, as always, on Amazon Prime Video. A matchup featuring the Denver Broncos and the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Kansas City Chiefs won the game by a score of 19-8. A very ugly game, to say the very least. And for Kansas City, it was Patrick Mahomes, of course, 30 of 40, 306 yards, a touchdown and an interception. Isaiah Pacheco led the team in rushing with 62 yards. Travis Kelce, 9 catches, 124 yards. Rice had 4 catches for 72 yards. Kadarius Toney had a receiving touchdown. And Chiefs defense played very well. Chiefs defense recorded 4 sacks last night. Reed, Tranquil, and Jones with 1 sack apiece. Karlaftis and Herring had half a sack. And the defense also recorded 2 interceptions of Russell Wilson. Reed and Nick Bolton had interceptions. So that's the numbers for Kansas City. For Denver, Russell Wilson, ugly game. But then again, he's had a lot of these since he's come to Denver. 13 of 22, 95 yards, 1 touchdown through 2 interceptions. Williams led the team in rushing with 52 yards. Cortland Sutton, receiving touchdown, 4 catches, 46 yards. Defense recorded 2 sacks. Cooper and Allen had sacks. Simmons had an interception, but it was not enough as Kansas City wins it. They defeat Denver 19-8. And Kansas City improves to 5-1. Denver drops to 1-5 on the season. And next week, as part of week number 7, looks like that's the Broncos bye week. Yeah, Denver Broncos will be on bye. Their next game will be in week number 8 on that will be on October 29th. And ironically, it will also be against the Kansas City Chiefs. So the next time they come back, they're going to have the Chiefs waiting for them. So that will be on October 29th. And that game will be in Denver. And it's scheduled to be a 4:25 game on CBS. So there's that. And Kansas City, they'll be playing next Sunday, the 22nd, and they'll be hosting the Los Angeles Chargers. Should be a good one there. So, no surprise with the outcome. Kansas City has beaten Denver, I believe, 16 or 17 straight times, which is yow. I mean, Denver hasn't beaten Kansas City since week 2 of 2015 on a Thursday night in Kansas City. That wild ending in that game. And every game since then, the Kansas City Chiefs have defeated the Denver Broncos. And it's just mind-boggling, the dominance that Kansas City has had against Denver for the last 8 or so years. It's just unbelievable, and just shows you how dominant this team is and why this team, I still consider them to be the next great dynasty in the NFL. I mean, Mahomes is the new Brady. Andy Reid's the new Belichick. I mean, what can I say? So even though it was an ugly affair, the Chiefs still found a way to get it done. Like I said, defense recorded 4 sacks and 2 interceptions, and Kelce had a big night. Mahomes had his usual big game, and that was just enough to defeat Denver. So Chargers coming in next week. We'll get into that on next week's show. That's going to be a little bit tougher. And then Denver, they'll be on bye next week. And then after they come back from the bye, they get Kansas City again. That's cruel irony right there. So, but my goodness, I mean, this is absolute dominance. I mean, it's like what Bullock's Patriots have been doing to the Jets. They've beaten them like 15, 16 straight times. So, dating back to 2015. So, just unreal. So, ugly game night. But the Kansas City Chiefs, they got it done. They defeated the Denver Broncos 19-8. Kansas City now 5-1. Denver drops to 1-5. And Kansas City's got the Chargers coming in next week. But then Denver has a bye. And then right after that bye, they got to see Kansas City again. Oh, man. So, Michael Bullock, come on in. Let's get your thoughts on this. Kansas City wins again. They defeat Denver 19-8, and they just keep on dominating Denver. They've beaten them 16, 17 straight times now? Oh, my goodness. Unbelievable. So, Bullock, are you there? All right, there he is. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say? I mean, Denver, Kansas City continues to dominate the Broncos, and this was after when Denver dominated Kansas City in years past, obviously, because Denver had Peyton Manning, so now that you got Mahomes there, it's a whole new ball game when it comes to that. And yeah, I mean, it was an ugly game, but a win is a win any way you can take it. And Mahomes had his usual game. So did Travis Kelce. The running game I thought was pretty good. So yeah, and like you said, now for Denver, like you said, that in 2 weeks' time they got to face the same Kansas City team again. While Kansas City next week, they got to deal with the Los Angeles Chargers, and they've had some good games before in the past. So we'll see how it all plays out. So a nice win for Kansas City. So that being said, Floria, let's get into the rest of week number 6.
Indeed, we will. And it starts off with yet another Sunday morning game in London, which will start at 9:30 in the morning on the NFL Network, as it will feature the Baltimore Ravens squaring off against the Tennessee Titans from Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, England. And of course, you can find this game over on the NFL Network. And just bear with me for one moment here as I pull up because there's also some there's some key information for those people who may not have the NFL Network. So all right, I got what I needed. Okay, great. Okay. All right. So for the people of Baltimore, you can people of Baltimore and Tennessee, mind you. For Baltimore, the people of Baltimore can watch this game on WBAL NBC Channel 11 in Baltimore. And for the people of Nashville, you can watch this game on WTVF CBS Channel 5 in Nashville. Everybody else, it's the NFL Network. 9:30 a.m. And it's the same crew who called the game last week in London with Jacksonville and Buffalo. That crew being Rich Eisen, Hall of Famer Kurt Warner, and Jamie Erdahl. They'll be in London for that one, just like they were a week ago. And Baltimore opening up as a 4.5-point favorite. And in the series history between these two former divisional rivals, favors Tennessee. Tennessee leads the series 11-10. Their last meeting was 2020. They met in Baltimore, and Tennessee won the game 30-24 in overtime. And then they met again in the playoffs in Tennessee, and Baltimore won that game by a score of 20-13. So Tennessee technically designated as the home team. The last meeting in Tennessee was 2018, and Baltimore manhandled Tennessee 21-0. And Tennessee's last home win against Baltimore was 2017, 23-20. So with that, let's dive on into our first game of week number 6. The Titans have scored touchdowns on only 35.3% of their red zone visits this season, landing them in a tie with the Houston Texans for third worst in the NFL. Meanwhile, the Ravens' red zone defense has given up touchdowns on an NFL low 25% of opposing offenses' visits inside the 20-yard line. Getting 7 points instead of kicking field goals could be the difference, as 3 of the Titans' 5 games this season have been decided by one score. Zay Flowers will score his first career touchdown. The Ravens' rookie receiver is certainly due. Flowers is tied with Jaguars tight end Evan Engram for the most catches this season, 29, without reaching the end zone. But the Titans' secondary has been good, giving up just 5 passing touchdowns so far. Stat to know, the Titans have scored fewer than 30 points in 23 straight games, longest active streak in the NFL, and the longest in franchise history. The X factor, Titans defensive lineman Danico Autry. When lined up as an edge rusher, Autry has a 24% pass rush win rate, which would rank right on the fringe of the top 10 if he qualified. And he has 4 sacks. Autry has the potential to disrupt the Baltimore pass game. Titans cornerback Christian Fulton has given up 267 yards this season. Josh Downs, Jamar Chase, Michael Pittman Jr., and others have exploited this matchup all season. Jackson and Flowers should do the same. Both teams have had 4 of their first 5 games this season go under the total, including 3 straight. Baltimore is the FPI favorite. FPI gives the edge to Baltimore here. 69% going with Baltimore. And I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens to win this game as well. My final score, I'm going to say 28-23. Baltimore defeats Tennessee in what should be another exciting game in London. So this game, by the way, came in as our number 3 game of the week on our side of the ledger. This is the number 3 game for our side. So not much more to say here. Michael Bullock, come on in. I got Baltimore winning here, 28-23. We got the Ravens and the Titans. It's our number 3 game of the week at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, Baltimore and Tennessee, 9:30 a.m. Sunday. Who you got?
Yeah, this definitely should be a really good game between these two. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how the Tennessee defense basically contains Lamar Jackson. But yeah, I think this is definitely going to be a good one. I think it's going to be a very close one. But in the end, I actually have the Baltimore Ravens coming out on top as well. So with that being said, let's move on to our next game, Florio.
As we start the 1:00 games now, and we started off with a game. It's a cross flex. So this is a game that you normally would have seen on Fox because this is an all NFC matchup, but this game is actually going to be on CBS, and it came in as our number 4 game of the week. And it will feature the Washington Commanders squaring off against the Atlanta Falcons from Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta on CBS. And on the call for this game will be Andrew Catalan, Tiki Barber, Matt Ryan, and AJ Ross. Atlanta opening up as a 2.5-point favorite. And in the series history between these two, it favors the Washington Commanders. Washington leads the all-time series 16-10 with a tie. They met in Washington last year. Washington won the game 19-13. Last meeting in Atlanta was 2021. Washington also won that game by a score of 34-30. Washington's won the last 2 meetings between these teams. Atlanta's last home win against Washington was in 2015, 25-19 overtime win. So with that being said, Michael Bullock, Washington and Atlanta, definitely a sleeper matchup here in the NFC. Number 4 game of the week on our side of the ledger. So your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean this should be another good one here, but yeah, I think Washington to me is a far better is a smidget better than Atlanta. I mean, sometimes I just don't know what to make with when it comes to this Atlanta team. So to me, I'm gonna go with the Washington Commanders to win this one. But if the Falcons do win this one, I would not at all be surprised. So it's yours, Florida.
All right, give me a moment here. Okay, I'm trying to find it here. All right. This will once again be an incredibly close game, and history proves it. The Falcons and Commanders played in 2021. Washington won with 33 seconds left. And in 2022, Marcus Mariota threw an interception in the Washington end zone with 103 remaining, with Washington winning both times. The big key will be on the lines, where Washington's talented defensive front will try to cause havoc for Atlanta quarterback Desmond Ridder, who has been sacked 16 times in 5 games. Washington defensive end Chase Young will force a fumble or interception by Ridder. Young has 3 sacks in his 4 games and was highly active in the loss to Chicago in Week 4, with a pass rush win rate of 36.4%. Washington quarterback Sam Howell has been sacked an NFL-high 29 times this season. David Carr, who was sacked 39 times in 2002, is the most sacked quarterback through a team's first 6 games of a season since sacks were first tracked in 1963. The X factor? The Washington Commanders pass rush. Despite having big names, the Commanders rank just 26th in pass rush win rate. Ridder has taken sacks at a higher than average 9% rate, so this is a big opportunity to get the unit going. Fantasy managers should temper expectations when it comes to skill position players on the Commanders. The Falcons' defense is allowing only 3.8 yards per rushing attempt to opposing running backs. Atlanta's defense also does a great job containing wide receivers, giving up the 6th fewest fantasy points per game to the position. Falcons are 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 games. The FPI likes Atlanta. FPI gives Atlanta the edge, 58% going with the Atlanta Falcons, and I am going to go with the Atlanta Falcons to win this game as well. My final score, I'm going to say 23-19. The Atlanta Falcons defeat the Washington Commanders. So with that, we move on to our next game, which we switch over to the Fox side of things. And you can make an argument this may be the Zonk game of the week on their end, as it will feature an NFC North division matchup of the Minnesota Vikings squaring off against the Chicago Bears from Soldier Field in Chicago. And you can, like I said, you can find this game over on Fox. And on the call for that game will be Brandon Gaudin, Robert Smith, and Jennifer Hale. Brandon Gaudin is working with Chris Myers' crew. That's usually Chris Myers' crew, but Chris Myers is working with another crew. So that's why Brandon Gaudin is sitting in, obviously, because of the baseball playoff coverage on Fox. So there's that. And Minnesota opening up as a 3-point favorite. And in the series history, well, it's between 2.5 to 3 for Minnesota. Minnesota's opening up as a 2.5. Atlanta's a 2.5 against Washington, and Baltimore's a 4. So that's what I have on my end. So let me get rid of that. Okay. Go off this. All right. Spread is 2.5 for Minnesota. And the series history, Minnesota leads the all-time series, regular season, that is, 65-56 with 2 ties. Minnesota's won the last 4 meetings against Chicago. They swept the season series each of the last 2 years. Minnesota won in Chicago last year, 29-13 and 17-9 in 2021. Matter of fact, Minnesota's won the last 3 meetings in Chicago. They also won 19-13 in 2020. Chicago has not beaten Minnesota at home since 2019. That was a 16-6 final. So there isn't much more to say. Let's start it off here. 2 wide receivers are in the spotlight for this NFC North showdown for contrasting reasons. The Vikings will be without Justin Jefferson after a hamstring injury landed him on injured reserve, while Chicago's DJ Moore is coming off a performance against Washington that earned him NFC Offensive Player of the Week honors. You remember the stat line: 8 catches, 230 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns. Jefferson and Moore rank third, 571, and fifth, 531, respectively, among all players in receiving yards entering Week 6. Justin Fields will have more passing yards than Kirk Cousins. Fields has thrown for 617 yards in his last 2 games, 4th most in the NFL over that stretch. Cousins has the NFL's 2nd most passing yards this season with 1,498. But the Vikings are certain to dial back their passing game in the absence of Justin Jefferson. The Vikings are 1-4 this season in one-score games after going 11-0 in such games last season. They are the only team to play in 5 one-score games in 2023. The X factor is obviously DJ Moore. He's an offseason acquisition who appears to be working out. In addition to recording more than 500 yards in 5 games, Moore leads all wide receivers and tight ends in the receiver tracking metrics overall score with an 85, which measures receivers' abilities to get open, make the catch, and generate yards after the catch, all relative to expectation. The Bears defense gives up the 3rd most fantasy points per game to running backs. The Vikings should see neutral to positive game flow against Chicago, which bodes well for Alexander Madison's fantasy outlook. In 4 of his 5 games this season, he has scored 10 or more fantasy points. All 5 Bears games have gone over the total this season. Vikings games are 4-1 to the over with 3 straight overs. Minnesota is the FPI favorite, 60% going with the Minnesota Vikings. But I got to be honest here. I don't really like Minnesota's chances without Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson is such a difference for this team, and I don't know if they can. I got some doubts about this one, serious doubts. So much so that I am actually going to go with the Chicago Bears to win this game. I think Chicago can do it. I say final score 28-24. Chicago defeats Minnesota. So not much more to say here. Michael Bullock, Minnesota, Chicago. No Justin Jefferson from Minnesota. That's going to be a major detriment for Minnesota to lose their franchise wide receiver.
Yeah, it's tough, but the thing is, I still think they can find a way to get it done. I mean, it's going to be up to some of the other guys to try to step up here, and I think it's going to be much closer because of the loss of Justin Jefferson. I mean, if he was in there, no problem whatsoever. But I'm actually going to slightly disagree with you, Florio, and I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings to win. I still think they will win, but I think it's going to be a close one. I mean, without Justin Jefferson, and don't be surprised if it's low scoring. So, nothing more to say. It's yours, Florio.
All right, and we move on to the next game. Yes, Bullock, you will be leading off on it. It's the number 2 game of the week on our side of the ledger. This is the second biggest game of our week here. Another cross-flex game, a game you would see on Fox because it's NFC at AFC, but it's a good one here. And boy, we got lucky. We got a good one here. We got the Seattle Seahawks squaring off against the Cincinnati Bengals from Paycor Stadium, formerly Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati. This game on CBS, and on the call for this game will be Iron Eagle, Charles Davis, and Evan Washburn. Cincinnati opening up as a 2.5-point favorite. And the series history between these two teams is tied 10-10. Their last meeting was 2019 in Seattle. Seattle won 21-20. Last meeting in Cincinnati was 2015. Cincinnati won 27-24 in overtime. Seattle has not won in Cincinnati. Last time Seattle won in Cincinnati, you got to go all the way back to 1993 when Seattle defeated Cincinnati 19-10 at the old Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. So that being said, Michael Bullock, number 2 game of the week on our side of the ledger, Seattle and Cincinnati. Your thoughts, man? Gonna be a good one here. Jamar Chase. We finally saw the Jamar Chase that, has been dominant the last couple of years. that Jamar Chase is back, and if Burrow and Chase get cooking, could this be what gets Cincinnati finally? Will this finally get them their mojo back? Because Cincinnati, big expectations going into the season, and they stumbled out of the gate. It looked like the Bungles.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Jamar Chase finally had that that game that everybody was waiting to see, and I mean, and if Burrow and Chase they start to get cooking, I mean, they could look like that team that went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and then of course another AFC Championship appearance for them. But we'll see what happens with that. But this is also a huge opportunity for the Seahawks here. I mean, they have a chance to go in and upset the Bengals here, so it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a close one, but I just somehow see Cincinnati pulling this one out, and I think this is where they're going to start to go on that run. So it's yours, Florio.
Perhaps they will. We'll see. This game will be determined by how well Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow and the offense respond to Seattle's pass rush. Seattle ranks 4th in the NFL in pass rush win rate, 55%, and its defensive front has the Bengals' full attention. That group will be a great test for Joe Burrow's mobility as he continues to improve from his calf injury. The Seahawks will blitz Burrow early and often. When pressured this season, Burrow ranks near the bottom of the NFL in yards per attempt, 3.1, 31st, completion percentage, 36.4%, 26th, and QBR, 10.7, 24th. That's likely a product of his injured calf, though it didn't seem to affect him as much last week. With Jamal Adams back from his concussion, the Seahawks, coming off their 11-sack performance against the New York Giants, will come after Burrow until he proves he can beat their blitzes with his arm and or legs. The Bengals have won 6 straight regular season games against NFC opponents. Second longest active win streak versus the opposing conference. Only the Philadelphia Eagles have won 8 straight versus the AFC. The X Factor, Seahawks cornerbacks Rick Woolen and Michael Jackson. The reemergence of the Burrow-Jamar Chase connection last week makes the Bengals dangerous again. But if the Seahawks corners can slow down Chase, the Bengals offense could scuffle with T. Higgins questionable to play. The Seahawks defense has allowed the second most fantasy points per game to wide receivers. It is a good sign for fantasy managers who have Burrow, Chase, or another Bengals pass catcher on their team. Seahawks have covered in 3 straight games. Seattle is the FPI favorite, just about 54% going with Seattle. But I'm actually going to go with Cincinnati to win this game as well. I'm with Bullock on this one. I think Cincinnati will win. I think they'll put it away with a late score. So I'm going to say 30-20. Cincinnati defeats Seattle. So should be a good one there. All right, moving on to our next game, as it will feature we switch back over to the Fox side of the ledger, as it will feature the San Francisco 49ers squaring off against the Cleveland Browns from First Energy Stadium in Cleveland. And believe it or not, Kevin Burkhardt, Greg Olsen, Aaron Andrews, Tom Rinaldi, they're going to be on the call for this one. Sounds a little surprising, I know, especially since it's a doubleheader week and America's Game of the Week is at 4:25, and they're not calling it. Very, very strange there, but okay. San Francisco opening up as a 6.5-point favorite. Series history.
I think, Florio, sorry to interrupt, but
No
I
worries.
think the reason why they have Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olsen doing the early game instead of the traditional America's Game of the Week. Let's not forget Kevin Burkhardt has some studio duties over when it comes to the baseball playoffs, especially later on that night. So maybe
This is true.
they want to have him do the early game and then get him out of there so that way he can get back to the studio in Los Angeles to do the studio show for the ALCS.
That's right, and that starts this Sunday night. The American League Championship Series, a Lone Star State Showdown with the Texas Rangers and the Houston Astros, which starts Sunday night in Houston. So, and we'll see if Kevin Burkhardt gets back to the studio and joins Alex Rodriguez, Derek Jeter, and David Ortiz. Now that's an all-star panel. If that's not an all-star panel, tell me what is. But anyways, San Francisco and Cleveland. Let me see. Cleveland actually leads the all-time series 12-8. Their last meeting was 2019 in San Francisco. 49ers won going away 31-3. Last meeting in Cleveland, Cleveland actually won 2015. That was a 24-10 final. The 49ers have not won in Cleveland. Listen to this. The last time San Francisco won in Cleveland, you got to go all the way back to 1984, if you can imagine that. Final score that day, San Francisco rolled Cleveland in 84, 41-7 at the old Municipal Stadium, the old dog pound in Cleveland. We all remember that. So let's dive on in. This game pits one of the NFL's best offenses against one of its best defenses. The 49ers are number 2 in offensive efficiency at 87.1, while the Browns are number 1 in defensive efficiency, 87. The 49ers have scored 30 points in 8 straight games, 5th longest streak in NFL history, but the Browns have given up just 5 offensive touchdowns all season. 49ers defensive end Nick Bosa will get 3 sacks. Despite getting consistent pressure, Bosa has just 1.5 sacks through the first 5 games, but there's reason to believe a breakout is coming. Browns quarterbacks are averaging 3.09 seconds to throw, the second slowest average in the league. Most teams emphasize getting the ball out quick against the Niners, but that has not been a strength of Cleveland. Regardless of who starts at quarterback for the Browns, Bosa can get his sack total back on track here. This will be Cleveland defensive end Myles Garrett's 89th career game. His 80 sacks are the third most by any player in his first 90 career games since 1982, when sacks became official. After the late great Hall of Famer Reggie White with 98, and the Pittsburgh Steelers' TJ Watt with 83.5. The X factor, 49ers offensive tackle Trent Williams. One of the only ways the Browns can win this game is if Garrett takes over, which he can. But fortunately for the Niners, Garrett typically lines up against the left tackle, and that's where the strength of their offensive line lies. San Francisco allows the 8th fewest fantasy points per game to running backs. Fantasy managers who are thinking of starting Jerome Ford should consider other options. 49ers are 4-0-1 against the spread this season with 3 straight covers. They are the only team left without an against the spread loss. FPI likes San Francisco, 66%. And with the news about Deshaun Watson being out, San Francisco wins this game a little more comfortably, 28-14, San Francisco over Cleveland. So not much more to say here. Michael Bullock, no Deshaun Watson for Cleveland against San Francisco. Could be a long day. Bullock, are you there? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. I gotta go with the 49ers here. I mean, they still look like the complete team when it comes to the NFC side, even though you can make an argument for the Eagles. I mean, we saw what they can do offensively, especially Brock Purdy continues to play well. And of course you got Christian McCaffrey, and then of course that defense led by Nick Bosa. So yeah, I gotta go with San Fran to win this one. So let's move on. Oh, actually, Florio, we got good old MF Michael Fletcher here. So
I forgot to mention, I have my mic on mute. My apologies. Yes, MF has made it. MF, great to have you here. Bullock, take a breather here. We got to get MF caught up here before we move on to our next matchup. So MF, come on in. First things first, a brief thought about Kansas City defeating Denver 19-8. Kansas City defeating Denver for the 16th straight time. Yikes.
Yeah, 16th straight time, no doubt about it. Unbelievable performance, but give credit where credit's due to the Denver Broncos for making it a game than normally expected. I think a lot of people thought that Kansas City was just going to blow them out and dominate the level of play and the whole 9 yards, and it ended up not being as one-sided as it looked. Yes, Denver made some mistakes along the way, but if you really think about it, it was not the most convincing victory. And if you're a Kansas City Chief fan, you're probably a little annoyed after that performance because this is one of those games where you're thinking deep down, this should be an easy victory. This should be a dominant performance. And if you really think about it, Travis Kelce had a great game. Patrick Mahomes, somewhat pedestrian, but where was the running game? Where was the receivers? Where were they? The defense held their own and they did a dominating performance, harassing Russell Wilson all night. But if you're a Kansas City Chief fan, yes, you get the victory, but this was not a convincing victory that's going to make the rest of the AFC feel nervous about Kansas City. Some people are going to feel like Kansas City's somewhat vulnerable. So not the best foot forward, but a nice win for KC nonetheless.
All right, MF, and let's get your thoughts on the games that Bullock and I have predicted. We predicted the first 6 games so far. First up, yep, got through the first 6. First up, the latest game in the London series at 9:30 a.m. on the NFL Network. It's our number 3 game of the week, as you know. The Baltimore Ravens and the Tennessee Titans at Tottenham Hotspur in London.
Yeah, when it comes to this game, I kind of feel like this is Ravens' game. I kind of feel like Baltimore is going to win this one. Obviously, they're still steaming over what happened against Pittsburgh last week. I mean, that was inexplicable. If you're a Baltimore Raven fan, you're wondering what the bleep happened with that one. We had them on the ropes. We had them dead to rights, and some way, somehow, they came back and got us. So I feel like Baltimore is going to be more prepared, and I do believe that they'll win this game. So I got the Ravens.
All right, next up, our number 4 game of the week, cross-flex style from CBS, the Washington Commanders and the Atlanta Falcons.
This one is actually a little more interesting because if Desmond Ridder has an offensive line, I like Atlanta's chances because of Bijan Robinson and everything else. But I feel like Washington's probably going to eke this one out. I just have no faith in that O-line for Atlanta. So I'm going to go with Washington, but that's not really a convincing – I'm not totally convinced with that one.
My correction, it's the first 5 games we've gotten through, not the first 6. That included the Kansas City. All right. So, all right. Fox side of the ledger, looks like this is their zonk game of the week. The Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. No Justin Jefferson for Minnesota. He's on IR.
Yeah, that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt them. We saw what happened when he went down, when he was not in the level of play. Minnesota is such a different animal, to say the very least. You would think that Chicago should have that opportunity to eke this one out. I kind of feel like I just don't have much faith in Chicago right now. So with that said, I'm going to go Minnesota, but it's not really a truly convincing thought in my mind.
Fair enough. And we move on to our number 2 game of the week. The number 2 game of the week on our side of the ledger, another cross flexer. Good one here. The Seattle Seahawks and the Cincinnati Bengals.
If there's any indication of what happened last week, that this might be the moment they've turned it around, look out AFC. Because if Joe Burrow is fully healthy, and he's saying that he is, if Jamar Chase has found it, and if Burrow and Chase have found each other and is starting to lean on that, look out, because that means the Bengals are back. And if that's the case, that's bad news for the AFC, because that means Cincinnati's back. Buffalo, we don't know how that's going to look. We'll get into them in maybe a little bit. Right now, I just feel like Cincinnati may have turned the corner. We were hoping for their demise, but I think because we were thinking at the beginning of the year that this might be the Bungles, but nah, I think Cincinnati's found it, and if they did, that's bad news for the rest of the AFC. Cincinnati should win this game, and win this pretty comfortably.
All right, and we move on to the next game on Fox. This is the last game here, the last catch-up game here, the game that Bullock and I just talked about, MF. San Francisco 49ers taking on the Cleveland Browns. No Deshaun Watson for Cleveland again.
It doesn't matter if Watson was on or off the field. The Niners are a wagon. The Niners are the favorites to go to the Super Bowl right now. You could even say they're probably you could probably crown them the world champions right now because that's how good they've been. There's no team right now that I could see that gives 49ers any scare. I think San Fran there's just too many weapons for San Fran. Right now, Brock Purdy looks like the MVP. Then you got, George Kittle. You got CDMC and Christian McCaffrey. You got Debo Samuel, Brendan Ayuk, and them boys. And then, of course, that defense is just absolutely nonstop. They took Dallas, beat the living daylights out of them, and just dominated them. And this was supposed to have been a 5-star classic, and it turned out to a 5-star classic of a dud. Yeah. So, I mean, the Niners are dead. They're the best team in the NFL. If we were doing the power rankings like we used to do, Niners are clear-cut number one, and there's nobody close right now. So, yeah, give me the Niners to win and win this comfortably. Anthony, back to you.
All right, MF, you are all caught up now. So we move on to our next 1 o'clock game, and I believe Michael Bullock will be starting off on this one as we get back into our normal groove here. Bullock, get ready as we have another Fox game here, as it will feature the New Orleans Saints squaring off against the Houston Texans from NRG Stadium, formerly Reliant Stadium in Houston, Texas. Like I said, you can find this game over on Fox. And all right, got it. All right, and and on the call for that New Orleans Houston game will be Chris Myers, Mark Schlereth, and Christina Pink. Chris Myers is working with Adam Amin's crew here, the normal crew for Adam Amin. So that's the story there. Let's see. Spread favors. As I try to find it here in my notes, New Orleans opening up as a 1.5-point favorite. Series history favors New Orleans 3-2. And how about this? It's gone every other meeting. Last meeting was 2019 in New Orleans. New Orleans won 30-28. Last meeting in Houston, 2015. Houston won 24-6. All three Saint wins were in New Orleans, and both Houston wins were in Houston. And it's gone every other meeting. Saints, Texans, Saints, Texans, Saints. Are we looking at a pattern here? We could be. I don't know. We'll see. Michael Bullock, come on in. Let's get you started here. New Orleans squaring off against Houston. Your thoughts? Bullock, are you there? All right, I think we may have lost.
Did he forget to unmute the mic, or is he stepped away?
He might have stepped away. So all right, no problem. I'll take it for a spin here while we wait for Bullock to come on in, unless he comes in a matter of moments. But nonetheless, I got this one. New Orleans and Houston. Two strengths. Keyword, two strengths will clash Sunday as the Saints have allowed the sixth lowest QBR, 46.4, and their 7 interceptions are tied for third most in the NFL. On the flip side, Houston rookie quarterback C.J. Stroud is third in passing yards, 1,461, and has not thrown an interception in an NFL record 186 passes. The Saints will end Stroud's historic streak by giving him his first interception. They've already tied last season's interception total, and they have an interception in 4 of 5 games and a turnover in all of them. With the Saints' knack for forcing turnovers this season, it seems like they could come out on top in that regard. New Orleans running back Alvin Kamara has 50 career rushing touchdowns, 2 shy of tying Mark Ingram for the most in Saints history. Kamara became the Saints' all-time leader in total touchdowns, 73 last week against New England, passing Marcus Colston. The X factor is Saints right tackle Ryan Ramczyk. He's one of the best tackles in the league, but he has a key assignment against number 3 overall pick Will Anderson Jr. this week. Anderson hasn't had a sack in 4 games, but they're coming as he ranks 5th in pass rush win rate at edge. Texans defense allows the 7th most fantasy points per game to running backs, and Kamara has scored 19 or more fantasy points in 2 consecutive games. Saints have gone under the total in 11 straight games, tied with the 2003 Buffalo Bills for the longest such streak in the last 35 seasons. New Orleans is the FPI favorite. 54% go with New Orleans. I'm going with New Orleans as well. I think they'll put it away with a late score. 27-17, Houston, or I should say New Orleans defeats Houston. So I got to go with New Orleans here, 27-17. So MF, Washington and Atlanta, the sleeper game on our side of the ledger. Here's the sleeper game of the week on the Fox side, New Orleans and Houston.
Yeah, and this is going to be an interesting matchup, and I'm almost with you on this one. I feel like New Orleans is going to be kind of the better team here, especially after what they did last week to New England. I know, don't bring that up, but let me say it. Alvin Kamara coming back, they looked like a different squad. They looked so good, and that was a statement win, to say the very least. It had everybody talking. So no, without a doubt, give me the New Orleans Saints to win this game. And yeah, so Bullock, if you're back, come on in, bro. We're talking about Houston and New Orleans, my friend.
Yes, New Orleans at Houston. All right, I guess he's still not back yet. Or alrighty. With that being said, we'll move on to our next matchup, and we'll catch Bullock up when he comes back. Let's see, where are we next? Just want to check my list here. Okay, it's the game of the week on our side of the ledger. The big one. You could call this the main event, because this game here, division implications, as in sole possession of first place in the AFC South to the winner of this game, between the Indianapolis Colts and the Jacksonville Jaguars, from TIAA Bank Stadium in Jacksonville. You can find this game over on CBS, and it'll be Spiro Ditas, Adam Archuleta, and Amanda Renner on the call. Jacksonville opening up as a 4-point favorite. And believe it or not, this is already the second meeting between these two. They've already met. They already met in Indianapolis. They met in Indianapolis just a few short weeks ago. And and I believe it was the Jacksonville Jaguars that actually won that game. Yes, they did. They actually met on opening day. It was in week number 1 they met. They met in Indianapolis, and the Jacksonville Jaguars won the game by a score of 31-21 in Indy. So Jacksonville has cut into Indianapolis' series lead. Indianapolis leads the all-time series 27-18 now, including that game from week number 1. Last meeting in Jacksonville, of course, last year, Jacksonville won going away 24-0. Jacksonville also beat in. Jacksonville's actually won. Oh boy. Jacksonville has won the last several meetings against Indy at home, including a game where they were the home team in London. They've won 7 straight meetings as the home team. Indianapolis has not won in Jacksonville since 2015. No, I'm sorry. Make it 8 straight. Indianapolis has not won in Jacksonville since 2014. 44-17, the last time Indy won in Jacksonville. So there isn't much more to say on this. So MF, come on in. Of course, if it wasn't for our baseball playoff commitments, this would have been our game of the week. Indianapolis, Jacksonville. It don't get no bigger than when the winner gets sole possession of first in the AFC South division.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't get any bigger than this one. And the way that this thing has been played out, obviously a lot of people are thinking, it's gonna be Indy, maybe because of the fact, but all of a sudden, I think what happened was everybody was wondering what Jacksonville team we were gonna get, because going into London, they did not look good. They looked like a shell of their team. They looked like they were not together. Looked like there was some issues at the very beginning. Because they had that shocking loss. Because they had those. They beat Indy early in the year, 31-21, and you're thinking, all right, Jacksonville's back to their normal selves. Then they lost to Kansas City. You're like, all right, it was the Chiefs, no doubt. Maybe a bad night. They'll rebound. Then Houston got them at home. That's when everybody was like, wait a minute, what is going on? Has Jacksonville fallen apart? Is this a bad omen? Well, actually, no, because then they fly out to London, go to Wembley Stadium, get a win over the Atlanta Falcons. You're like, all right, nice win, nice comeback. Now they got Buffalo coming. Buffalo embarrassed Miami. Now, and everybody's thinking, Buffalo's gonna steamroll. They're back. They're strong. They're good. Oh my goodness! I think Buffalo left their talent in the United States because they got embarrassed at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium by these Jacksonville Jaguars, and we were like, whoa, wait a minute.
You got to be kidding me.
What is going on? Hold up. So now everybody's thinking the Jaguars are back. They might be a threat. And then now you got Indianapolis, who, oh, by the way, is without Anthony Richardson. So they're not going to have Anthony Richardson on their side because he got hurt again. But the thing is, they're like, well, they're going to ease in Jonathan Taylor, but you still got Moss. You got Gardner Minshew. Minshew Mania has indeed been running wild, brother. So, and he's my kind of guy. I'll honestly admit, I like Gardner Minshew. I think Minshew is a really good guy. I got nothing bad to say about him. I know a lot of people will be like, but he's this, he's that. Trust me, man. I've been a Gardner Minshew fan all the way back to the days of Philadelphia when he was the backup for Nick Foles and Carson Wentz, when he was the backup for them. And he's like one of my guys. I like him. I really enjoy what he's done. But now, I don't know. I feel like Jacksonville's turned it around all the way. So I'm going to go with the Jaguars. Close game. But I believe it's going to be like a 31-20. I'm going to say like 31-26. Like one of those type of score lines. But I got the Jaguars winning. So let's move on. Bullock, if you're back, please take over. If not, Anthony, it's yours.
All right. It looks like Bullock's still out. So all right. I'll take it here. Yes, MF, as you mentioned, Minshew Mania returns to its birthplace. Colts quarterback Gardner Minshew spent his first 2 seasons with the Jaguars and went 7-13 as the starter in 2019 and 20 before the team drafted Trevor Lawrence number 1 overall in 2021. The bigger return, however, is Indy running back Jonathan Taylor to a larger role. He has rushed for 522 yards and 3 touchdowns in 5 games against the Jaguars. The Jaguars' defense has been very good against the run so far, allowing almost 82 yards a game, 5th in the NFL. That's the matchup that will determine the outcome of this one. The Colts will rush for a combined 200-plus yards after averaging 148 yards the last 4 games. This will be the second game with Taylor back on the field, and Colts coach Shane Steichen said he intends to give Taylor an increased role Sunday alongside veteran Zach Moss. The Colts are expected to lean heavily on their running game, with starting quarterback Anthony Richardson now on injured reserve and expected to miss 4 or more games because of a shoulder injury. Trevor Lawrence has a 75 QBR, ranking 4th in the NFL, and a 7.7% off-target percentage, second lowest in the NFL, against zone coverage this season. That's important because the Colts use zone coverage at the 10th highest rate in the NFL. The X factor is Colts edge rusher Kwity Paye. He's playing opposite Jaguars rookie tackle Anton Harrison, 70.1%, who has the worst pass block win rate at tackle in the league. Paye has a chance to throw Lawrence off his game. The Colts defense has given up the 9th most fantasy points a game to wide receivers. Calvin Ridley should be in fantasy lineups on Sunday. He leads the Jaguars with 15.1 yards per catch. Gardner Minshew, is 8-14 against the spread in his last 22 starts. The FPI likes Jacksonville in this one, 66% going with Jacksonville. I'm going with Jacksonville as well. My final score, 28-23. The Jacksonville Jaguars defeat the Indianapolis Colts and take over sole possession of first place in the AFC South. So we'll see what happens with that. So with that, we move on to our final 1 o'clock game. And here you go, MF. Oh, here you go. It's ours. It's the Zonk game of the week on our side of the ledger, as it will feature the Carolina Panthers squaring off against Good Old MF's Miami Dolphins, Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, Florida. And MF, I confirmed it to you in our Facebook Messenger chat the other day, and I'm going to do it one more time. I have it. It's officially on the announcer sheet that I have here. For this game will be on CBS, and on the call for this one, Kevin Harlan, along with Trent Green and Melanie Collins. They will be in Miami for this one. And MF, I got even better news for you. Your Dolphins are opening up as 13.5-point favorites. 13.5, the spread for Miami. Series history favors the Miami Dolphins. Miami leads the all-time series 5-2. Their last meeting was 2 years ago in Miami. Miami won going away 33-10. The Carolina Panthers have only won in Miami one time, and that was back in 2013, 20-16. That's the only time Carolina has ever won in Miami. So, Bullock, if you're back, come on in. We'll get you caught up, or if not, then I'll start this one off. So, all right, I guess he's still out. So, all right, I'll start it off. Despite their 0-5 record, the Panthers' aggressive defense has found some success this season in getting after opposing quarterbacks. Carolina has the 4th highest sack rate in the NFL, coupled with the second best third down defense, almost 30%. However, the Panthers also own by far the league's worst expected points allowed EPA when defending the run, minus 14.4, and will face a Dolphin offense that ranks second in EPA per rush at 16.8, almost 17. The Dolphins won't top the 70 points they had earlier this year against Denver, but will top 50. The Carolina defense could be without 2 of its secondary starters and possibly 3 if cornerback Dante Jackson has a setback. Miami will get some help from its defense with a touchdown against the Panthers offense that surrendered 21 points off turnovers last week in a 42-24 loss to the Detroit Lions. The Miami Dolphins have 2,568 total yards of offense this season, the most through 5 games in NFL history. MF, listen to this. Your team needs 489 more on Sunday. They get 489 or more on Sunday, they will pass the 2000 St. Louis Rams for the most yards through 6 games. That St. Louis team had 3,056 total yards through 6 games. The X factor, well, not really an X factor. Extreme unforeseen events. I'm trying to imagine which player is going to swing this game, and well, it's going to take more than that. Wild weather, bizarre fumble luck, Tua Tagovailoa waking up on the wrong side of the bed. The Panthers will need at least all three of those. Over the last four games, Panthers receiver Adam Thielen has averaged 11 targets. In 3 of those 4 games, he scored 20 or more fantasy points. Thielen should be busy against the Dolphins in a matchup. The Panthers are likely to be playing from behind. Panthers are 0-4-1 against the spread this season. And MF, you're going to really like this. The FPI loves Miami. How much? 88% going with the Miami Dolphins to win this game. And yes, of course, I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins to win this game. I don't know if they'll get 50. That was just a random bold prediction, but I think they will. They'll get at least 40, though. I'll say 42-23. The Miami Dolphins keep their red-hot winning ways going. Take care of Carolina, no problem. Yes, MF, you can consider this a tune-up because next week you got Philly.
It's a monster game next week.
The game of the week on our side of the ledger. Man, I wish we were calling it.
I know.
But nonetheless,
you and me both on that one. You and me both. But by then, either we'll still be in ALCS commitments, or we'll be revving up for the Super Bowl, or repping up for the World Series, I should say.
Yeah. But nonetheless, here you go. You got an easy one here. Carolina, 0-5, 13.5 point spread, 88% FPI. And to top it off, your boy, your good luck charm, Kevin Harlan, working it again.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Well, the weather might not be pleasant for the Carolina Panther Miami Dolphin game. There is a chance of a thunderstorm in the area, partly cloudy for most of the game. They said that there's a chance of a shower at kickoff, 87 degrees, and then throughout the game, there's the threat of rain throughout all 4 quarters, but it's going to be averaging about 87 to 88 degrees at the Hard Rock on Sunday. So, yeah, the threat of weather is definitely there throughout the entire game, with the wind gusts possibly at 12 miles an hour. So there's definitely going to be a little bit of concern there. But offensively, I kind of feel like this is going to be, like you said, this should easily be a nice win for the Miami Dolphins. We've had many games that we just got to play the game. We just got to stay confident, stay, within that system. If they do that, Miami will easily walk away with the victory on Sunday over the Carolina Panthers. It's just stay the course. Just stay the course. Right now, that's all that we can really say right about now. And nothing more to say. Anthony, it's yours.
And one thing of note, MF, before we move on, and that is Devon Achane, IR. So.
Major loss. However, Miami has a running back by committee. Raheem Mostert. Jeff Wilson is coming off IR, but it looks like he's not ready. They're probably going to hold him out one more week. That means Savon Ahmed, your old buddy Anthony, he might come back. He should be back in time. He might be playing. Plus, we got another rookie running back named Chris Brooks, who's just as explosive, but he's a battering ram type of a running back. He's not like a Devon Achane. He's more like a Jerome Bettis type guy, a guy who, if you need a couple of yards, or if you're down at the goal line that you need it, you give it to Brooks and you let him get the touchdown. And as far as offensive go, there's not much that we're gonna need. You're going to have Tyreek Hill. You're going to have Jalen Waddle. Oh, by the way, Chase Claypool is making his debut with the Miami Dolphins on Sunday. So you got Claypool. Braxton Berrios is going to be in there. Jeff Wilson. Maybe they hold him off. Maybe they put him out. They might hold him as an emergency guy. So no, I mean Miami should be all right. I just want to hope that Tua does not make the same mistakes as he did against the Giants. Because that was the thing that annoyed me more than anything else on Sunday. Yeah, we had a great victory, but the offense looked a little off. Tua made a humongous mistake. Try to throw a ball in triple coverage. The ball got tipped. Next thing you know, it was a pick six the other way. The New York Giants got a touchdown on the Dolphins. Let's just say I was not happy with Tua Tagovailoa at that moment. I was a little perturbed, as they would say, a little annoyed, to say the very least. So, yeah. Nothing more to say.
And I found one other interesting stat here, courtesy of, I believe it was Scott Hansen from NFL Red Zone. He mentioned this. The top 7 fastest players in the NFL, the top 7, all 7 are Miami Dolphins.
Either Tyreek Hill, I think 3 of them were Tyreek Hill, 2 of them were Devon Achane, and the other one was Raheem Mostert. But the ones that Tyreek did, they were averaging. He averaged one at 22 miles an hour, one at 20 miles an hour, and I think the third one was like at 20 miles an hour. Where Raheem Mostert, the one that he broke, which was I believe it was against the Patriots, that the one where where the parted sea and he just broke. And he was clocked at 21.1 mile an hour. Speed kills when it comes to the Miami Dolphins.
Indeed, it does. And you got an easy one here, but next week we'll find out if your boys are for real when they go to Philadelphia.
Oh yeah,
possible Super Bowl preview. You never know.
Very possible, but again, just like how I know everybody was bloating about the Dolphins. I'm not that kind of guy. I went, especially after the Buffalo game, I was like, one game at a time. Now that the media is off the Dolphin bandwagon, let's focus on football. Let's focus on the job at hand and what we need to do. Because, like you said, there's 3 tough games, not only Philadelphia. We got Philadelphia, New England at home, and then we got the big one in Germany against KC.
Which, as of right now, might end up being our game.
Yeah. So, I mean, we got a murderer's row coming up. Philadelphia is going to be a monster game. Don't sleep on the Patriots. I know a lot of people is writing them off and saying, the Patriots are done. Nah. AFC Eastern Division battle in Miami. You know they're angry because they felt like they let one get away the first time around. At Foxborough, so there's a revenge factor for the Patriots in that game. So that's why I'm not check marking the Patriot one as a victory because I know better. I'm not an idiot. I'm not gonna fall for that trap.
In other words, you're not a Johnny come lately on the block.
Yeah,
and neither am I, and neither is Bullock. So, but anyways, I believe I had my say in it. So with that being said, let's I just want to make sure, Bullock, are you with us yet? Or are you just want to make sure you're ready to go so we can get you back into the fold here and get you caught up, and because your team is up next, my friend. So here you go. We get into the late games now, and we have a 4:05 kickoff over on CBS. And it will feature Michael Bullock's team, the New England Patriots, as they square off against the Las Vegas Raiders from the home of Super Bowl 58, Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. And believe it or not, on the call for this game, hello, friends, Jim Nance, Tony Romo, and Tracy Wolfson actually working this one. You can imagine that. But Bullock did mention it during our SmackDown chat tonight. He feels that it's because with the Super Bowl being in Vegas, it will give him a feel of the stadium, I guess. So that's certainly fair enough. So, but whatever the reasoning, that's who's going to be on the call for that one. The spread favors the
Raiders.
Yep, Las
The
Vegas.
Raiders
Yep,
by
Las
3.
Vegas. Yep, that's exactly what I have. 3-point spread for Las Vegas. Series history, it favors the New England Patriots. New England leads the all-time series 18-15 with a tie. We all remember it last year, the last meeting in Vegas 1 year ago. The mother of all Morocco Mole moments. I'm sorry to say it, but it's true. I mean, who was it? I don't remember who made the
Chandler Jones picked it off
Chandler Jones,
and ran it all the way back for the touchdown to win it.
Yeah, that
Patriot
Morocco
fans absolutely were blowing a gasket, man. I remember that. Not just Derek Ferreira. Ferreira was like Ferreira was just a little piece. All my friends, 2184 crew, anybody who was a New England Patriot fan, oh no.
Yeah.
That was a massacre of an afternoon. People wants to forget that game. People were so furious. I mean, I think the only ones who were having a laugh over it was me and you, Florio, because of the unbelievable ending to that game. How
and of course your good friend who's a Raider fan, Ed Williams.
oh my God. It was so funny because the next day he did come out in a Raider uniform and parading that around the 2184. So, oh yeah, there was a good time to be had that day. I'll say that.
I'm sure it was. But anyways, last meeting, of course, Las Vegas last year. The Raiders won 30-24 on that mother of all Morocco moments, as I referred. The Patriots' last win at the Raiders was when they won in Oakland back in 2011, 31-19. And believe it or not, MF, you actually were the lead on that game when you were the number 2 crew that one.
That's
year.
right. Me and Eric Silva that year did the game.
And Vince Wilfork had that big play in it, so I remember that very well. That was the lost year, as I call it. So, but anyways, that's the last time New England won at the Raiders in 2011 in the Black Hole in Oakland. So, I believe, MF, this goes to you as we await to see if Bullock gets back in here. So, but nonetheless, MF, it's New England, it's Las Vegas. Vegas coming off a big win Monday night against Green Bay, where for the New England Patriots, the first 2 games, they hung with Philly, they hung with Miami, but the last 2 games against Dallas and New Orleans, outscored by a margin of 72-3. Yikes.
And it was absolutely one of the biggest factors of the whole thing. And I think a lot of people are really angry over what happened with New England. And a lot of people feel like this is it, that the dynasty is over. There's a lot of people that was talking about that Belichick should be fired. And, you heard all the negativity about what's going on with New England. But the thing is that the level of play is a lot different. Now, I went off on this mother of all rants, ripping about the Patriot fans and everything else. And let's just say I took some shots at the kneecaps for my comments about a week ago. So a lot of people, but there was quite a few that defended me. And especially with the older Patriot fans, they got it. They understood what I meant. They felt like I was absolutely correct, that, the millennials have no idea what's going on, that you got that the younger generation of Patriot fans, that they never got to deal with the heartache. They never got to deal with the pain. They never got to deal with the bad years. And that, that this is a what for have you done for me lately type league, and I get it. And the thing is that now you're hearing the whispers from even the diehards saying maybe this should be Belichick's last year or this or that and everything else. Everybody knows Belichick wants to break the record of Don Shula's. And he's about, 18 wins away from breaking the record all time? I mean, he's right there. He's about maybe 2 or 3 years away, if it, at best. Obviously, the ego is going to want him to break the record. He's going to want to do that before he retires because he's going to want to prove that, everything, it's all ego driven now. So for a guy like Bill Belichick, because yes, he had the Super Bowls. Yes, he's considered one of the greatest coaches. But the thing is that now he's trying to prove that he can win the title without Tom Brady. Brady did it. Brady went to Tampa and got the Super Bowl without Bill Belichick. And you know that's eating him alive. So now he wants to win the title to prove to the fans that, you see, I got you another Lombardi without Brady. So it's kind of a pettiness more than anything else. The problem is that you do got a good defense, but the offense is where the biggest problem lies, and where it starts is at the quarterback position. And that's where Mac Jones is under fire. Now, there's some people that feels like maybe it's, the coaching, that maybe he's got the bad coaching. No, because Bill O'Brien is a pretty decent offensive coordinator. So what is the real problem? Why is it not working? Is it because of that he's not handling the playbook? Is it the mechanics that maybe he's not, he doesn't see the biggest read or making the biggest mistake, what's going on? Or is it that maybe he's not that good of a quarterback? Now, I know I just took a hot take, and I know Patriot fans are going to be flipping out right about now that I just said that. But you got to think about it. Going into that year, there was so many questions about Mac Jones, and everybody remembers the success he had in Alabama, and that they thought it was going to translate, and it didn't, and it hasn't up to this point. So what are we going to get? And as far as the Raiders go, hey, you guys hung tough. You did everything you needed to do. You won the game over the Green Bay Packers. And the thing is, I kind of feel like this is that kind of moment that could turn the Raiders season around and really turn it all the way back. Be careful with New England, because I think New England's going to give them a fight. But at the end of the day, I think the Raiders are going to win. I just feel like they got something going. They feel like the confidence is there. If New England get blown out again, there's going to be questions that, has Belichick lost the locker room? At that point, all hands on deck. Watch out. Because then the tiki torch and pitchforks might come out from Patriot Nation. And God knows what else kind of chaos could bring with that. So, Raiders win. Michael Bullock, if you're back, it's yours. If not, Anthony, I give it to you.
Bullock, are you there? I guess not yet. So, all right. So, I'll take it for a spin now. The Patriots have been outscored by a combined 72-3 in the last 2 games. The Raiders' defense has given up just 13 points in the last 6 quarters, while forcing 4 turnovers in that span. Yet the coaching staffs are so intimately familiar with each other, given so many New England ties on the Raiders staff, that recent history should be thrown to the wind. The Patriots, who have a league-low 2 takeaways, will match their season total against former Patriots quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo, who has thrown 7 interceptions this season. Meanwhile, Raiders kicker Daniel Carlson, who set the NFL record for field goals of 50-plus yards last season with 11, but is 0 for 2 on such attempts this year, will deliver his first from long range in 2023. Raiders coach Josh McDaniels is 2-0 against Patriots coach Bill Belichick. He seeks to join Dave Wannstedt, as the only coaches to defeat Belichick and the Patriots in each of their first 3 meetings. The X factor, Raiders edge rusher Max Crosby. We all saw what he can do Monday night against Green Bay. Against a weak New England offensive line, the chance is ripe for a repeat performance. The Patriots wide receivers rank near the bottom of the league when it comes to creating separation, according to NFL Next Gen stats. New England's offensive line also ranks 30th in pass block win rate. It's not a great combination for a struggling Patriots passing game. The Raiders are 0-3 against the spread on short rest under Josh McDaniels, with all 3 games going under the total. Vegas is the FPI favorite, 56% going with Vegas. I'm going with Vegas as well. Low scoring game, ugly game. I'm going to say 17-14. Vegas gets by New England and keeps their winning ways going. So let's move on to the 3 425 games that can be seen over on Fox as part of America's Game of the Week. And we started with our first matchup, NFC West divisional matchup, the Arizona Cardinals squaring off against the Los Angeles Rams from SoFi Stadium in Inglewood. You can find that game, like I said, over on Fox. And for that one, it will be Kenny Albert with Jonathan Vilma and Shannon Spake. And the Rams opening up as 7-point favorites. Series history favors the LA Rams 46-40 with 2 ties. They split both games last year, both teams winning on the road. So Arizona's actually won the last 2 regular season games in LA. 27-17 last year, 37-20 and 21. The Rams last beat Arizona at home in 2020, 18-7. That was the final game of the regular season that year. So let's get into Arizona and the Rams. With running back James Conner on injured reserve because of a knee injury, the Cardinals don't have another back with more than 48 rushing yards so far. But the Rams' rush defense ranks 25th in DVOA and allowed 159 rushing yards to Philadelphia last week. Cardinals quarterback Joshua Dobbs will make up for Conner's absence and have the best game of his career. He'll throw for more than 300 yards and rush for at least 100 against a Ram defense that ranks 16th in opponents' scoring, 21.6 points allowed a game, in the Cardinals' second win of the season. Dobbs has thrown 6 passing touchdowns through his first 5 games with the Cardinals. He needs 4 more to tie Gary Hoggaboom for the most touchdown passes, 10 through a player's first 6 games with Arizona. The extra is Cardinals running back Amari DiMercato. With James Conner injured, DiMercato might be the one to carry the workload in his absence. We know the Cardinals will want to run the ball, so we should play a big role in this game. Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford has averaged 290 passing yards a game and has Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua as his top 2 receivers. In terms of fantasy points allowed a game, Arizona's defense has allowed the 7th most points to wide receivers and the 3rd most to quarterbacks. Rams are 5-0-1 against the spread in their last 6 games following a loss. FPI loves the Rams. 73% going with the LA Rams. I'm going with the LA Rams. 27-14. I got the Rams defeating Arizona. So not much more to say here. MF, Arizona, and the Rams, the first of our 425 games on Fox's America's Game of the Week.
Yeah, and the same difference that you were saying is the same thing I was thinking is that, with the Rams, it looks like they've turned the corner now. Don't get me wrong, I loved what I saw. I like what I see from Arizona, but I just don't think they have enough of the horses to hang in this fight here. They probably make it interesting for maybe a half, but the Rams are just too strong, man. I think they finally found themselves, and to me, I think the Rams will win and win this going away. So I really got nothing more to say. So Anthony, it's yours.
All right, and we move on to our next matchup, the next 425 game, and it features the NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles on the road against the New York Jets from MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, in the Meadowlands. Kevin Kugler, Mark Sanchez, and Laura Oakman will be on the call for that one. Philadelphia also opening up as a 7-point favorite. This is the most one-sided matchup in the NFL right now. I say that because of the fact that I don't know if MF knows this. I don't know if Bullock knows this, but I'm going to let the cat out of the bag here. When it comes to this series history, these two teams have met 12 times. Take that down. 12 times they have met. The Philadelphia Eagles have won each and every single game. In other words, Philadelphia leads the all-time series with the Jets 12-0.
They're undefeated. Wow.
How about that, huh? Their last meeting was 2021 in New York. Philly won 33-18. So no need to do any other stuff. So with that being said, MF, Philly and the Jets, Philly's 12-0. Do I hear 13-0?
Yeah, I just don't see how. But I will say this: when it comes to Philly, they are without a doubt, other than the Niners, they're probably the best team. But the consistency is where the problem lies with Philly. But when it comes to this team, they're really good. They're really strong. They really know how to play, and they're amazing. They are really, really, really amazing squad and everything else. What I will say is this: at the end of the day, or at the end of the week, Philly is going to have two defensive guys not there. That's a major, major problem. But the thing is, I don't think they're using them for this game. I think they're looking forward to the one against the Dolphins in about a week. Now, could New York sneak up and clip the Eagles? Possible. But they would have to literally play like they played against Kansas City. Almost a perfect game. Yes, they lost the game, but they would have to play that type of offense. Everything's going to have to look good. Everything's going to have to look great. The momentum is going to have to, they're really, basically, you're going to need a complete performance by the defense and the offense to at least make this a game. Because like how they did it with KC, how they got it into like a one-score level, they would need to do the exact same thing. If they make the game close enough that it makes Philly start to sweat a little bit, New York could do the unthinkable and pull the upset. I don't think they will, but I do believe that Philly will win this. But this could be one of those where it's not going to be a blowout. I think it could be a lot more closer. I could think this would be almost a repeat of the Sunday night game against Kansas City, where this one could go down to the wire. So give me Philly to win. I would say like a 27-23, but I do believe if New York hangs with Philly, especially towards the end, oh boy, we might have something on our hands. But I do believe Philly should win this and remain undefeated as they head into that big one against Miami. So, Anthony, it's yours.
This game features two of the most productive running backs in the NFL. The Eagles' DeAndre Swift, 434 yards, fourth in rushing yards, and the Jets' Breece Hall, 387 yards and sixth in rushing yards. Breece Hall, who's coming off a 177-yard gem in a win over Denver. The Jets' chances of pulling off the upset and their first ever win over the Eagles hinge on a big game from Hall, who was fully recovered from last season's ACL surgery. Eagles receiver Devontae Smith will lead the way with 120-plus receiving yards. The Eagles' skill players take turns dominating the stat sheet. A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert have taken center stage in recent weeks. Coming off a one-catch outing against the LA Rams, Smith will emerge as the focal point to penetrate a Jets pass defense that has limited offenses to 206 passing yards a game and is tied for fourth in the NFL in interceptions with 5. Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts has 55 rushes, most among quarterbacks, 206 rushing yards, second most, and 4 touchdowns, tied for the most this season. He's facing the Jets, who have allowed the second most rushing yards to opposing quarterbacks this season, 163. The X factor is the Jets' offensive line. Just as it was starting to figure things out, the line lost its best player and Aaliyah Vera Tucker for the season. The group has its work cut out for it against the Eagles, it's a big ask to protect Zach Wilson this week. The Jets are the only team in the league that averages more yards per rushing play, 5.4, than passing play, 5. The Jets offensive line ranks 13th in run block win rate, which bodes well for Breece Hall. Eagles are 12-0 outright and 11-1 against the spread all time against the Jets with 6 straight covers. Philadelphia opening up as a big FPI favorite, 65% going with Philadelphia. I'm going with Philadelphia. Late touchdown puts it away. 31-17, Philadelphia over the Jets. Final 425 game. Now, here's an interesting story about this next game. This game was originally scheduled as a 1 o'clock game when the schedule came out. But because these two teams have been so good, the league actually flexed this game from 1 o'clock to 425. And you can make an argument this actually might be the NFC game of the week right here, based on the records. The Detroit Lions squaring off against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. And on the call for this game will be Adam Amin, Daryl Moose Johnston, and Pam Oliver. Adam Amin is sitting in for Joe Davis because Joe Davis, of course, is the voice of Major League Baseball on Fox. And he's getting ready to work the American League Championship Series and the World Series with John Smoltz, of course. So let's get into this. Spread favors Detroit. Detroit opening up as a 3-point favorite. Detroit leads the all-time series 31-28. But it's Tampa Bay who's actually won the last 2 meetings, and both of those games were in Detroit. A 47-7 beatdown in Detroit in 2020 and a 38-17 beatdown in Detroit in 2019. Last meeting in Tampa Bay, 2017, and Detroit actually won that game 24-21. Tampa Bay has not beaten Detroit at home since 2005, if you can imagine that, 17-13. So let's get into Detroit and Tampa here. The leader of the NFC North faces the leader of the NFC South. The Lions' offense is on fire, averaging almost 30 points a game, 4th best in the league, while the Bucs boast one of the league's stingiest red zone defenses. The Bucs are holding opponents to a 27.3% efficiency rating in the red zone, 2nd best, and opposing quarterbacks are completing just 33.3% of their passes in the red zone, the best mark in the NFL. Lions running back David Montgomery will rush for 100-plus yards for a 3rd straight game. Tampa Bay's rush defense is no slouch, allowing just 379 total rushing yards on the season. But Montgomery is in a groove, and the Lions continue to feed him. No Lions player has rushed for 100 or more yards in 3 consecutive games since Hall of Famer Barry Sanders in 1998. Buccaneers have allowed 4 sacks this season, which is the fewest allowed by the team through 4 games since 2008, also with 4. The Lions have registered 14 sacks so far this season, tied for 14th most in the NFL. The X factor is Lions wide receiver Jamison Williams. He had 2 catches for 2 yards last week, but he played 47% of the snaps. I could see him making a big impact soon. The only teams with more rushing attempts than the Lions, 165, are the Eagles, 179, and the 49ers, 173. But the Buccaneers defense has held its opponents to fewer than 80 rushing yards in 3 or 4 games this season. Lions are 27-12 against the spread under coach Dan Campbell, best record in the NFL in that span. They are 4-1 against the spread this season with 3 straight covers. Detroit is the favorite, FPI favorite, 55% going with Detroit. Tampa will give them fits, but I think Detroit will steal one here and keep their magical season going. 31-27. I got Detroit defeating Tampa Bay. So, MF, you could call this America's game of the week here. How about this? Originally a 1 o'clock game, now a 4:25 game. If that's not putting a respect on both of these teams' names, then tell me what is.
Yeah, and thanks to the flex scheduling that they needed it to make this game happen. And look, going into this, I think a lot of people thought Tampa and Detroit weren't going to be much, or they weren't going to do much difference or any type of thing. And all of a sudden, it came in, and it was one of those type of situations, and it's like it was amazing how. Especially Detroit, there's a lot of people coming out of the woodwork. I know your brother, Anthony, was a big Detroit Lion fan for a number of years, so I know he must be
I got news
Over
for you.
the
He did lose interest. He did, he did step away because he was frustrated with the losing.
obviously,
and all that.
obviously.
But he's
He must
a
be
diehard
all
fan
in
again.
now.
This is the most excited he's been probably since the days of his hero Barry Sanders.
Yeah, and the thing is that he has a right to be, because, like I said, we've been saying this whole time, this is not the same old Lions. This is a brand new Lions. And Jared Goff, I mean, go figure, man. This guy got outcasted, thrown out of the Rams to go to Detroit, and a lot of people thought, oh my God, his career is dead, that he's never going to bounce back or anything else. And he is catalyst, one of the better run, one of the more exciting teams in the NFL. The defense has bought in. Dan Campbell right now, you could even make an argument for him to possibly be coach of the year right now because of how amazing Detroit has been. I will openly admit this. Detroit is that darling that, we've been nod wink wink, yeah, ha. We don't know if this team's gonna be as good as it's been. All of a sudden, here they are, and they're looking amazing. So for me, there's really nothing more to add. Yes, I'm total agreement here. I got the Detroit Lions winning as well. Anthony, it's yours.
Yeah, like I said, this is the most excited that my brother has been for the Detroit Lions since the days of Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders is the reason why he became a Detroit Lions fan. So,
quite frankly, I don't blame him, because I know for a lot of fans, if you're from the Detroit city, the Motown, a lot of them considers Barry Sanders as a godsend over there. So absolutely, no doubts.
and he does have he does have some jerseys. I do know that. So
yeah,
yep, and rightfully so. Just like you have a Dan Marino Dolphin jersey, just like I have a Josh Allen jersey. And speaking of Josh Allen, that happens to be our next game, because we got 2 left, and it's the primetime games. And we started off with Sunday Night Football on NBC. We go from my brother's team to my team, as it will be the New York Giants squaring off against my Buffalo Bills, Highmark Stadium, Orchard Park, New York, on NBC. You already know who's working it. Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, Melissa Stark, and the Buffalo Bills are the biggest favorite of the week. The Buffalo Bills are opening up for this game. Buffalo is listed as a 14-point favorite. 14-point favorite for Buffalo. Series history. Whoop, just give me one moment here. All right, it's coming up. All right. Series history between the Giants and the Bills. Almost there. All right, I got it now. All right, there it is. Buffalo leads the all-time series 7-6. Their last meeting was at the Giants in New York. 2019, Buffalo won that game 28-14, snapping a 3-game losing streak to the New York Giants. Last meeting in Buffalo, 2015, Giants won that game 24-10. The Bills have not beaten the Giants at home since 1993, 17-14. So with that being said, let me see. I think I started the last one, so I think MF goes to you.
No, it's me. Yep. It's me.
Yep, and just for an update, Michael Bullock has left us for the night, so we're gonna take it the rest of the way. So, all right, MF, Giants in Buffalo. Well, here's the thing: Daniel Jones is out.
Yeah,
Daniel Jones is out. Neck injury suffered at the hands of your Dolphins, and the Buffalo Bills.
Your old buddy.
Tyrod Taylor.
He's a starter.
Tyrod Taylor will be getting the nod for the Giants against Buffalo. Of course, they might be considering their fortunes here, because let's be realistic. Daniel Jones 1-12 all time in primetime games in his young career. So it's Tyrod Taylor who's getting the nod. Former Buffalo Bills quarterback, had a couple of good years with him. They got Saquon Barkley coming back. That's good news. But at the same time, Buffalo is a 2-touchdown favorite. And let's be realistic, MF. Buffalo is hopping mad after they got embarrassed in London.
Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind about that either. I feel like this is kind of one of those games where if you're Buffalo, this is not the right moment to be going after. This is a recipe for disaster, at least in my mind, in my thoughts. But at the end of the day, there's really nothing more for me to say here. I know, look, Buffalo came in here thinking, you know, all right, now we're going after them. We get another shot at this. This is revenge. This is revenge in their mind, and there's really nothing more to add there. So they got revenge on their mind. They're thinking, we got humiliated, we got embarrassed. And a lot of people are saying, you know what? And I know there's a few fans out there that not feeling sorry about Buffalo right about now. They probably were thinking, serves you right. You got a big head. You were thinking you were the biggest and the baddest because you crushed the Miami Dolphins. And just like the Dolphins, after the way that they were doing their business, they got brought down to earth. And this was that moment where, unfortunately for Buffalo, it was a back to reality type moment with that loss for them. So yeah, at the end of the day, you kind of have a feel like this is going to be a number of situations or how this is going to play out. I kind of feel like Buffalo will win, and they're going to win comfortably. The margin, that's an unknown, but at the end of the day, I'm going to say Buffalo wins this, and like I said, this will be a very comfortable, easy victory for the Bills. Like you said, bounce back, riding of the ship for the Bills. And I know that, and I'm pretty sure the Buffalo Bills coaching staff probably told the boys, you saw what happened. You let that one get away in London. So it's time to get down to basics. It's time to get down back to what really makes us why we are the Buffalo Bills. Establish a run game, JA-17, just do what you normally do, handle your business, and defense, step up. Because that's exactly what you need to do. Because when they were playing those games, especially that game on Sunday, you could tell there was a lack of communication. There was a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes that Buffalo was committing that, Anthony, you know this. They don't make those many mistakes in that game. And there was a few that were kind of eyesores that you kind of are wondering, what is this team? What is going on? And that's why I said earlier, especially when we were talking about Jacksonville, how it looked like they left their talent back in Buffalo because a lot of them did not play their best games. And, we can talk about, Stephon Diggs breaking that Microsoft Surface tablet because he was so mad. But the thing is that I think he was more mad because they know that they're better than what they were playing. They know they're better than what they were providing. It's like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. It's like when you're Dr. Jekyll, you're amazing. When you play Hyde, you're like, oh, what the hell? So you need to find. It's like you lost the balance. And I was hearing from different podcasters who follows the Buffalo Bills that I watch on YouTube, and they were saying the same thing. It was a piss poor performance. They looked uninspired. They looked uninspired. They didn't have the mojo. They didn't have the confidence. They didn't have that killer instinct. And many of the fans were like, did you basically use all your bullets for the Miami Dolphins and didn't leave anything for Jacksonville? I think Buffalo, just like with Miami, after they got crushed by Buffalo, the perfect get-right game came right in their lap, which, oddly enough, was the New York Giants. This time around, Buffalo needs a get-right game. Unfortunately for New York, you're the victim yet again. Second time around for a team that got embarrassed, got humiliated, who's probably angry as hell. And now, unfortunately, that particular team is going to take out their frustrations on you guys. I feel sorry for the Giants because of the fact that, just like with the Miami game, and that was 31-16, it's going to be almost similar to that 38. My final score is 38-13. Buffalo beats New York. And there's really nothing more to add. So, Anthony, it is yours.
And for this game, MF, the Buffalo Bills will be wearing their Color Rush red uniforms for this game. So, and you know those red uniforms, don't you?
I think I remember that. Yes, I remember they're all red. They're all red outfits. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen the all red, but yeah, I've seen them.
Not that long. Don't forget, it was against your Dolphins that cold and snowy Saturday night last December.
Yeah, I remember that.
Where Buffalo won. So where Buffalo won that wild and crazy game. That was our game of the year last year, as we all know. So that's the last time they wore the red uniform. So that's why I feel extra good about this one. But serious business here. This game represents a big bounce back opportunity for the Buffalo Bills offense after a subpar performance against the Jacksonville Jaguars, especially for the ground game. The Giants have given up 5.3 yards a rush, 29th, and 6.3 yards a play, 31st this season. A Bills offense that scored 37 plus points in a 3-game stretch before last week will be a challenge for this Giants defense. Giants running back Saquon Barkley will rush for 100 plus yards in his return from an ankle injury, despite seeing fewer than 15 carries. This might seem improbable given the state of the Giants' offensive line and Barkley's track record after returning from ankle injuries. But the Giants' line is better at run blocking than pass blocking. Sure, it's a low bar at this point, and Buffalo is beat up defensively. The Bills are allowing 134 rushing yards a game, 25th in the NFL. The Bills have used nickel defense on almost 96% of their plays this season, the highest rate in the NFL. They have dominated opponents using 5+ defensive backs, ranking first in both touchdown to interception ratio and sack rate. The Giants, who struggle against defenses with 5+ defensive backs, rank last in those metrics. The X factor, Bills edge rusher Von Miller. He played just 23% of the snaps last week, but that presumably will be increasing against the Giants. And the Bills need the help too with Daquan Jones and Matt Milano now injured. New York's defense has given up the 5th most fantasy points to running backs so far this season. Don't be afraid to start James Cook. Giants are 0-5 against the spread this season, worst in the NFL. Last season, the Giants were 13-4 against the spread, best mark in the NFL. The FPI, remember when I said Miami was an 88% FPI? They liked Buffalo a little bit more. 89% going with Buffalo to defeat the Giants. And of course, I'm going with the Buffalo Bills to defeat the New York Giants. It's a little less than what you have. Or actually, it might be a little more. You said 38-13. I got 38-17. But regardless, I got the Buffalo Bills defeating the New York Giants. Get right game. And they got a decent stretch coming up. I mean, they got a decent favorable stretch here because they have the Giants here. Then they go to New England in Foxborough. I like our chances there. And then they got Tampa Bay on a Thursday night. The next tough game I see for Buffalo is Cincinnati on November 5th, especially if Cincinnati gets their mojo back. So we'll see what happens with that. But for right now, Buffalo wins 38-17. Final game of the night, Monday Night Football on ESPN, 8:15, of course. It's a matchup featuring the Dallas Cowboys and the Los Angeles Chargers. Good one here. SoFi Stadium in Inglewood. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Lisa Salters. And Dallas opening up as a 2.5-point favorite. Dallas leads the all-time series 7-5. Dallas won in LA in 2021 in their last meeting, 20-17, snapping a 3-game losing streak to the Chargers. Let's see. Yep, that was in 2021. The Chargers last beat the Cowboys at home in 2013 in San Diego, 30-21. So here it is. The Cowboys fired offensive coordinator Kellen Moore after last season's divisional round playoff loss to San Francisco, with coach Mike McCarthy taking over as the team's offensive play caller. Chargers quickly scooped up Kellen Moore after firing their offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi, and Moore has the Chargers among the league's best passing offenses. Now he will face his former team fresh off the Cowboys' 32-point loss to the 49ers, in which the Cowboys scored just 10 points. Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott will throw for 300 yards. That might be commonplace for many quarterbacks, but it hasn't been common for Prescott. In his past 17 starts, he has one 300-yard game. Chargers pass defense has had an every other game feel so far, allowing 466 and 367 in the first and third games. Maybe the bye will help LA, but Prescott could have a big night. Over the last 3 seasons, Justin Herbert has been one of the league's best quarterbacks under pressure, ranking third in QBR at 66, sixth in completion percentage, 67.5, second in passing yards, 10,859, fifth in passing touchdowns, 70, and third in sack rate when under pressure, 15.5%. Cowboys lead the NFL in pressure percentage over that same span. The X factor, Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy. He wanted offensive play calling duties back, but so far the results have not been there. Dallas ranks just 15th in EPA per play on that side of the ball, with neither the passing game nor rushing game cracking the top 10. Cowboys defense ranks 25th in run stop win rate, 29%, while the Chargers offensive line ranks 6th in run block win rate, 72%. For fantasy managers, LA running back Austin Eckler's expected return comes at a great time. Cowboys are 5-0 against the spread after a loss in the last 2 seasons, and 9-1 against the spread in the last 3 seasons, 7 straight covers. But the FPI likes the LA Chargers, 55% going with the Chargers. I'm going to go with the Chargers to win this game as well. Final score for me, I'm going to say 30-23. The LA Chargers defeat the Dallas Cowboys at SoFi and setting up a big game with Kansas City next Sunday. So not much more to say. Chargers win 30-23. MF, take it home.
Going into this, I think we all would have agreed that I think we would have been more comfortable saying, Dallas earlier in the year. But with the way that the Chargers have been playing, and especially after the way Dallas has been handling themselves, I'm in total agreement. I think the Chargers are going to win this one, and I'm going to go with the Chargers as well. So, Anthony, let's call it a night.
And that will indeed put the bow on this Week 6 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in, as always. We will be back with you tomorrow night, 10:30, over on MF's channel, Brace Fan 95, for another edition of the Cerebral Smack Talk, as we will have Friday Night SmackDown, a loaded Friday Night SmackDown, to say the very least, the season premiere of Friday Night SmackDown. Wait till you hear what happened during this show tonight. And then from there, AEW Collision as well. Monday night, we do it all again. We got Ridiculously Raw as we continue on the road to Saudi Arabia and Crown Jewel, Monday Night Raw. Special Tony's Take this week. MF, I'm going to be previewing Impact Wrestling's biggest event of the year. You know what that is. Bound for Glory. I'm going to have a preview on Monday night. And then Wednesday night, we're back at our normal time, Wednesday Night Madness. We got NXT. We got AEW Dynamite. And we have another Thursday Night Football game preview. But this one might actually be a halfway decent matchup here. How about the Jacksonville Jaguars against the New Orleans Saints in the Superdome? Get into that on Wednesday. And then, of course, as you all know, last night we had no choice but to cancel the College Football Thursday due to commitments and other things beyond our control. But we're hopeful to be back on Thursday night for what will be the Week 8 edition of College Football Thursday. And some of the games, oh my goodness, MF, you remember we had a Smorgasbord Saturday earlier in the year? We might have another one. Penn State against Ohio State, Duke against Florida State, Clemson in Miami, Washington State and Oregon, Tennessee and Alabama, Ole Miss against Auburn, Utah against USC. And for flavor content, I'll even throw in Michigan and Michigan State. Yeah, that sounds like another Smorgasbord Saturday coming. So So we'll get into that next week. As far as what happens on this program 1 week from tonight, another edition of NFL Friday. Well, we got 6 teams on bye. Well, we have 2 teams on bye this week. Those teams being the Green Bay Packers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. 6 teams on bye next week. Carolina Panthers, Cincinnati Bengals, Dallas Cowboys, Houston Texans, New York Jets, and the Tennessee Titans. We'll recap Jacksonville and New Orleans. Some of the games for next week. Cleveland against, how about the Detroit Lions against the Baltimore Ravens? That's a good one there. Cleveland and Indianapolis, maybe. Atlanta and Tampa Bay. We got Pittsburgh going up against the LA Rams. The Chargers going up against Kansas City. But, of course, we all know what the game of the week will be next week. MF's Miami Dolphins against the NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles Sunday night in Philadelphia. That's the game of the week, hands down. So we'll get into all that, plus all the other action of week number 7 next week. And that's it. So until tomorrow night, for the Cerebral Smack Talk over on MF's channel, BraceFan95, this is Anthony Florio here. For Girl MF, Michael Fletcher, and in spirit, Michael Bullock, and of course, always and forever, the First Lady, Dee Dee Woodson. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah. Throw it up, Fortune Force style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed Saturday, and until tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk, you've been watching the Week 6 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube and Streaming.com. For everybody who's been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Florio. So long, and bye, everybody. Bye.